Hello, friends. I'm Harry. Here, we unearth lost letters, raw echoes of love, pain, and secrets buried by time. Join me as we travel through time and feel the love, regret, and hope inked on these forgotten pages. A letter from Pearl Harbor. The following letter was discovered in 2019 inside a waterlogged sea chest recovered from the USS Arizona Memorial. The chest had been submerged for nearly 80 years. This letter, written on Navy stationery and preserved in what appears to be a makeshift waterproof pouch, was never sent. December 15th, 1941. Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Dear Copper, I hope this letter finds you well, though I know it won't find you at all. I've been carrying this piece of paper around in my pocket for 4 days now, and my hands shake every time I try to write on it. Not from the cold, Lord knows it's plenty warm here, but from something else entirely, something that sits in my chest like a stone. I keep thinking about how you used to cock your head when I talked to you, like you were trying real hard to understand every word. That's what I'm doing now, boy. Trying to understand. They tell us we're not supposed to write about what happened here on December 7th. Loose lips sink ships, they say. But seeing as how this letter's never leaving my pocket, I figure I can tell you the truth. Besides, you always were the best listener I ever had. I was thinking about you that morning, actually, before everything went to hell. I was lying in my bunk on the Arizona, listening to the boys snore and mumble in their sleep, and I remembered how you used to wake me up back home in Nebraska, not with barking or jumping on the bed like some dogs might. No, you'd just sit there next to my cot in the barn and breathe on my face until I opened my eyes. Your breath always smelled like the chicken scraps Ma would give you, and sometimes like the wild mint that grew down by Miller's Creek. I miss that smell, Copper. I miss it something fierce. The morning of the attack, I was supposed to have liberty. Was going to go into Honolulu with Jimmy Kowalski and maybe catch a picture show. Jimmy's from Chicago, and he's got this way of talking that reminds me of the radio programs we used to listen to on Saturday nights. Remember how you'd curl up right next to Pa's chair while we listened to The Shadow and Amos and Andy? Your ears would perk up every time the radio crackled, like you thought maybe it was talking directly to you. But I didn't go to town that morning. Something kept me on the ship. Maybe it was the way the harbor looked so peaceful in the dawn light, all pink and gold, like Ma's good china. Or maybe it was because I'd been having that dream again, the one where I'm walking through the cornfield behind our house, and I can hear you barking somewhere in the distance, but I can't find you, no matter how hard I look. I woke up early and went topside to watch the sunrise. The water was so still, it looked like a mirror, and I could see the mountains of Oahu reflected in it, purple and green and mysterious. I thought about taking a photograph to send home, but then I remembered I'd used up all my film on pictures of the crew. There's one of me and Jimmy standing by the forward gun turret, both of us grinning like fools. I keep it in my wallet now, next to that old snapshot of you and me from the county fair. You remember that picture, don't you, boy? You were just a pup then, maybe 6 months old, all legs and ears, and that copper-colored fur that gave you your name. I'd won you at the ring toss booth. Took me 17 tries and cost me 2 weeks' worth of allowance. But I wasn't leaving without you. Ma said I was being foolish, spending good money on a game that was probably rigged anyway. But Pa, He just smiled and handed me another quarter. "Sometimes," he said, "a man's got to do what his heart tells him to do, even if his head says otherwise." I think about those words a lot these days, Copper. I think Pa would understand why I enlisted, even though it meant leaving you behind. I think he'd understand why I had to go, even though it broke my heart to see you sitting there in the dust of the driveway, watching the bus pull away with me inside. Ma wrote to me last month and said you still sleep in the barn, in that same spot where my cot used to be. She said you've been waiting for me to come home, and that breaks my heart all over again. Because the thing is, boy, I don't know if I'm coming home. I don't know if any of us are. That morning, December 7th, I was sitting on the deck thinking about home when the first planes came in. At first, I thought it was just another drill. We'd been having a lot of those lately, what with all the talk about the war in Europe and the Pacific. But then I saw the red circles on the wings, and I knew it wasn't no drill. The sound those planes made, Copper, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before, like the sky itself was tearing apart. And when the first bombs started falling, the whole world just came apart. I won't tell you about the fire or the screaming or the way the water in the harbor turned black with oil. I won't tell you about the boys who didn't make it or the ones who did but wish they hadn't. That's not something you need to carry around with you, even if you could understand it. But I will tell you that in the middle of all that chaos, in the middle of all that noise and destruction, I thought about you. I thought about how you used to comfort me when I had bad dreams, how you'd rest your chin on my chest and just breathe steady and slow until I felt better. And somehow, thinking about you made me feel less scared. I've been thinking about fear a lot lately, Copper. Not the kind of fear that comes from facing an enemy or hearing bombs fall. That's a different kind of fear, sharp and immediate and almost clean in its simplicity. No, I'm talking about the quiet kind of fear that creeps up on you when you're lying in your bunk at night and the ship is rocking gentle-like on the waves. It's the fear of never seeing home again, the fear of never walking through those cornfields or fishing in Miller's Creek or sitting on the front porch with you while Ma calls us in for supper. The fear of never being able to tell you that I'm sorry I left you behind, because I am sorry, boy. I'm sorry I had to go. I'm sorry I couldn't explain it to you in a way you'd understand. I'm sorry I didn't give you one last good scratch behind the ears before I got on that bus. Jimmy Kowalski says I think too much. He says that's my problem, always worrying about things I can't control. But Jimmy doesn't have a dog waiting for him back home. Jimmy's got a girl in Chicago, and she writes him letters every week, and he knows exactly what he's fighting for. Me, I've got you, and that's both simpler and more complicated than having a sweetheart. Because you don't write letters, Copper. You can't tell me you're proud of me, or that you're waiting for me to come home. You can't send me pictures or pressed flowers or little reminders of what I'm fighting for. All I have are memories and this ache in my chest that gets bigger every day. I remember the day I taught you to fetch. You were about 8 months old and stubborn as all get out. I'd throw a stick and you'd run after it, but then you'd just lie down and chew on it instead of bringing it back. Ma said you were too dumb to learn, but I knew better. I knew you were just being independent. It took me 3 weeks of throwing sticks before you finally brought one back. And when you did, the look on your face was like you just discovered the most wonderful game in the world. You dropped that stick right at my feet and looked up at me with your tail wagging so hard your whole body was shaking, that's when I knew we were going to be partners, you and me. Not just a boy and his dog, but real partners, the kind who understand each other without words. I wish I could see that look on your face again, Copper. I wish I could throw you a stick and watch you bound through the tall grass, your ears flapping and your tongue hanging out. I wish I could hear you bark when the mailman comes around, or when Pa starts up the old Ford, or when you see a rabbit in the garden. The sounds here are all wrong, boy. Instead of roosters crowing and cattle lowing and the wind through the corn, there's the constant hum of engines and the shout of orders and the clank of machinery. Instead of your bark, there's the harsh call of seagulls and the sound of waves against the hull, and the smells. God, the smells are all wrong too. Instead of fresh hay and Ma's baking and the sweet smell of prairie grass after rain, there's diesel fuel and salt air and something else, something sharp and metallic that gets into your clothes and won't come out. I try to remember what home smells like, but it's getting harder. I try to remember the sound of your bark, but sometimes I can't quite catch it. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the more it slips away. That scares me more than anything, Copper, the idea that I might forget. Yesterday, I was cleaning my rifle. We have to do that every day now. And I found myself humming that old song Ma used to sing while she did the dishes. In the sweet by and by. You remember that one? You used to howl along whenever she got to the chorus, and she'd laugh and say you had a better voice than the church choir. But I could only remember half the words, and that made me want to cry. If I can't remember the words to Ma's favorite song, what else am I going to forget? What if I forget the way you used to chase your tail until you got dizzy? What if I forget how you'd steal socks from the laundry line and hide them under the porch? What if I forget the feel of your fur under my hand, or the weight of your head on my lap, or the way you'd sigh when you were perfectly content? I've been trying to write down everything I remember about you, but there's so much, too much. How do you capture a lifetime of small moments in words? How do you explain the way you made me feel less alone in the world? There was this one time, I think you were about 2 years old, when I got real sick with pneumonia. I was laid up in bed for near 2 weeks, and Ma was worried I might not pull through. But you never left my side. You slept on the floor next to my bed, and every time I'd wake up coughing or feverish, you'd be right there, watching me with those brown eyes of yours. Ma said you barely ate anything the whole time I was sick. She'd put food out for you, but you'd just sniff at it and go back to your spot by my bed. It wasn't until I started feeling better that you finally ate a proper meal. That's love, Copper. That's the kind of love that doesn't need words or explanations. It just is. I've been thinking about love a lot lately, especially since Jimmy got that Dear John letter from his girl in Chicago. She said she couldn't wait any longer, that she needed to get on with her life. Jimmy cried when he read it, though he tried to hide it from the rest of us. But I saw him later that night, sitting on the deck and staring out at the water, and I knew his heart was broken. The thing is, I don't think you'd ever write me a Dear John letter, even if you could. I don't think you'd give up on me or decide to get on with your life. I think you'd wait forever if you had to, and that makes me love you even more. But it also makes me feel terrible, because what if forever is what you have to do? What if I don't make it home and you spend the rest of your life waiting for someone who's never coming back. That's the thought that keeps me awake at night, Copper. The thought of you getting older and grayer, still sleeping in that same spot in the barn, still listening for the sound of my voice. Ma's getting on in years herself, and Pa's back isn't what it used to be. What happens to you when they're gone? I've been writing to my cousin Eddie in Lincoln, asking him to promise to take care of you if something happens to me. Eddie's a good man, and he's got a farm of his own with plenty of room for a dog. But it's not the same, is it? Eddie doesn't know about the way you like to be scratched behind your left ear, or how you're scared of thunderstorms, or how you'll only eat your food if someone's sitting with you. Those are the things that make you mine, Copper. Those are the things that make me yours. I wonder sometimes if you dream about me. I wonder if you wake up thinking you heard my voice, or if you chase dream rabbits through dream fields while I'm chasing dream enemies through dream battles. Do you remember the games we used to play? Do you remember the secrets we shared? I told you things I never told anybody else, Copper, about how scared I was when Pa got sick that winter, and how I sometimes felt like I wasn't smart enough or strong enough to be the man I was supposed to be, about how I worried that I'd never find someone to love me the way you did, without expecting me to be anything other than what I was. You always listened without judging, without trying to fix things or give advice. You just listened, and that was enough. The other boys here, they don't understand when I talk about you. They think a dog is just a dog, something to keep around for hunting or protection. But you were never just a dog to me, Copper. You were my best friend, my confidant, my partner in crime. Remember when we used to sneak out to the creek at night to go fishing? Ma had forbidden me to go down there after dark, said it was too dangerous. But you and me, we knew better. We knew that was when the big catfish came out to feed, and we knew exactly where to find them. We'd sit on that fallen log, you and me, with our feet dangling in the water and my fishing line disappearing into the darkness. We didn't talk much. Well, I didn't talk much, and you couldn't, but we didn't need to. We understood each other. I caught my biggest fish on one of those nights, remember? That old catfish that was longer than your whole body. You were so excited you nearly fell off the log, and when I finally got him to shore, you barked and danced around like you'd caught him yourself. We walked home through the cornfield, me carrying the fish and you trotting alongside with your tail wagging. The moon was full and everything was silver and peaceful. When we got to the house, I cleaned the fish on the back porch while you sat there watching, and then we buried the guts in Ma's garden like we always did. Ma never did find out about those midnight fishing trips, did she? She probably wondered why I was always so tired at breakfast, but she never asked. Maybe she knew, and maybe she figured I needed something that was just mine. I need that now, Copper. I need something that's just mine, something that connects me to who I was before all this. That's why I'm writing this letter, even though I know you'll never read it, because in my mind, you're still sitting there with your head cocked, listening to every word. The war's getting worse, boy. I can't tell you the details, but things are happening that make Pearl Harbor look like just the beginning. The other boys talk about going home for Christmas, but I don't think any of us really believe it anymore. This thing's going to last a long time, and not all of us are going to make it through. I'm not trying to be morbid or anything. I'm just trying to be honest. And if I don't make it home, I want you to know that every good thing I ever did, every moment of courage I ever showed, every kindness I ever offered to another human being, I learned from you. You taught me what loyalty means, Copper. You taught me what it means to love someone without expecting anything in return. You taught me that the best things in life don't need words or explanations. They just need presence and patience and the willingness to sit quietly with someone when they need you most. I think about the last time I saw you, and I wish I'd known it was the last time. I wish I'd held you a little longer, scratched behind your ears a little more, told you everything I'm telling you now. But I thought I'd have more time. I thought I'd be home for Christmas or Easter at the latest, and we'd pick up right where we left off. That's the thing about time, Copper. You think you have plenty of it right up until you don't. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the not knowing is what makes the good times so precious. Maybe if I'd known that morning in April was the last time I'd see you, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it. Maybe I would have been too sad to appreciate the way you chased butterflies in the garden, or the way you fell asleep in the sunshine with your paws twitching as you dreamed. I'm glad I didn't know, boy. I'm glad I got to have that last perfect morning with you without the shadow of goodbye hanging over it. The chaplain here says, we should have faith that God has a plan for all of us. I want to believe that, Copper. I want to believe that somewhere, somehow, this all makes sense. But it's hard when you're 19 years old and you've seen things that no 19-year-old should have to see. What I do have faith in is this. I believe that love doesn't die, even when the people who feel it do. I believe that the connection between you and me is stronger than distance or time or even death. I believe that somehow, some way, you know I'm thinking about you. Maybe that's foolish. Maybe Jimmy's right, and I think too much. But I'd rather believe in something foolish than believe in nothing at all. I've been carrying this letter around for 4 days now, adding a sentence here and there when I get a quiet moment. My hands are steadier now, and the words come easier. Maybe that's because I'm not trying to say goodbye anymore. Maybe I'm just trying to say hello. Hello, Copper. Hello, my old friend. Hello, you beautiful, stubborn, loyal, wonderful dog. I'm sitting on the deck of the Arizona as I write this, and the sun is setting over the harbor. The water is calm again, and the sky is painted in shades of pink and gold that remind me of home. If I close my eyes, I can almost hear you barking in the distance, calling me in for supper. Maybe I'll keep writing to you, even if I never send the letters. Maybe I'll tell you about the places I've been and the things I've seen and the friends I've made. Maybe I'll tell you about the dreams I have and the fears I carry and the hope I'm trying to hold on to. Or maybe I'll just carry this letter with me like a prayer or a promise or a piece of home that I can touch when the world gets too big and scary. Either way, I want you to know that you made me a better person, Copper. You made me a better son, a better friend, a better man. You taught me what it means to be loved unconditionally, and you showed me how to love the same way. That's your gift to me, boy. That's what I'll carry with me wherever this war takes me. Not just the memory of you, but the love you taught me to feel and share. The sun's almost gone now, and I can hear the bosun's whistle calling us to quarters. I need to fold this letter up and put it away, but I want to say one more thing. If something happens to me, Copper, if I don't make it home, I want you to know that I'll be waiting for you. Somewhere beyond the cornfields and the creek and the barn where you sleep, I'll be waiting. And when your time comes, not for a long while yet, I hope, I'll be there with a stick to throw and all the time in the world to play. Until then, be good for Ma and Pa. Keep sleeping in the barn if it makes you feel closer to me. Keep chasing rabbits and barking at the mailman and stealing socks from the laundry line. Keep being the dog I fell in love with all those years ago at the county fair. And remember, Copper, remember the boy who loved you more than anything in the world. Remember the boy who would have stayed home if he could have, but who had to go because sometimes a man's got to do what his heart tells him to do, even if his head says otherwise. Remember me and know that I will never, ever forget you. Your boy, Billy. Postscript. I found a picture of a dog in one of the magazines here that looks almost exactly like you. I'm tucking it in with this letter just in case I need to remember what you look like. But I don't think I'll ever forget. Some things are burned into your heart too deep to ever fade away. According to military records, Seaman William Billy Thompson, age 19, of Grand Island, Nebraska, was killed in action during the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. His body was never recovered. A search of Nebraska state records revealed that a dog named Copper lived with the Thompson family until 1949, when he died of old age. Family members reported that Copper never stopped waiting for Billy to come home. Lost letter. You turned 7 today. I hope you still remember me. This letter was discovered in 1982 during a restoration work at a church in Sussex, England. Found inside a damaged prayer book hidden beneath loose floorboards in what had been a vestry, the letter was written on military field paper with pencil that had faded to pale gray. The envelope was addressed to Master William Thomas Hartley, CIO Mrs. Eleanor Hartley, Bramley Cottage, Little Wickham, Sussex, but was never posted. September 18th, 1917, somewhere in Belgium, 3rd Battalion, Royal Sussex Regiment. My boy, you turned 7 today. I hope you still remember me. I know that sounds rather dramatic, and your mother will probably tell you that fathers don't say such things to their sons. But here, in this place where everything is upside down and back to front, I find myself saying all sorts of things I might not have said in ordinary times. 7 years old, William. Can you imagine? When I left, you were barely 5, still small enough that I could carry you on my shoulders without my back complaining too much the next morning. Still young enough that you believed absolutely everything I told you about the world, even the nonsense about how thunder was just the angels moving furniture about in heaven. Do you still believe that? I rather hope you do. The world has quite enough sensible people in it just now, and not nearly enough who believe in angels with furniture. I'm sitting in what we generously call our rest area, which is really just a slightly less muddy place behind the lines where the shells don't fall quite so regularly. I have a candle stuck in a bottle, proper posh as Jenkins would say, and I'm using my knee as a writing desk because the only table belongs to Lieutenant Morrison, and he's using it to play cards with Sergeant Williams. They're arguing about whether Williams has actually won the hand or whether Morrison is simply too tired to count properly. My money's on Williams, not because I think he's more honest, but because Morrison has been awake for 3 days straight and can barely remember his own name, let alone how many hearts are supposed to be in a deck of cards. But you don't want to hear about card games and tired lieutenants, do you? You want to know about your father, about what he's doing on your birthday when he should be at home, helping you blow out 7 candles on whatever cake your mother has managed to conjure up despite the shortages. 7 candles. Do you know, when I was 7, I thought birthday candles were the most magical things in the world? My mother, your grandmother, though I don't suppose you remember her very well, she told me that if you made a wish and blew out all the candles in one breath, the wish would come true. I believe that absolutely, with the kind of faith that only small boys possess. I would spend weeks before my birthday thinking about what to wish for, changing my mind daily, practicing my breathing so I could be sure to get all the candles in one go. 1 year. I think I was turning 8, or perhaps 9. I wished for a pony. Not just any pony, mind you, but a particular pony I'd seen at the village fair. A clever little chestnut mare who could count to 10 by stamping her hooves. I was utterly convinced that if I could just manage those birthday candles properly, she would somehow appear in our back garden. Of course, she didn't. What appeared instead was a wooden horse that my father had carved for me, painted white with a black mane made of real horsehair. Not quite what I'd wished for, but magical in its own way because he'd made it with his own hands just for me. I wonder if you'll wish for a pony this year. Most boys do at some point. Or perhaps you're more practical than your old father was. Perhaps you'll wish for the war to end, or for enough coal to keep the house warm through the winter, or for the baker to have proper flour again so your mother can make decent bread. 7-year-old boys shouldn't have to wish for such things, but I suppose 7-year-old boys shouldn't have to have their fathers away at war either. The world has become rather turned around, hasn't it? I have a present for you, William, though I'm afraid it's not the sort you can unwrap or play with. It's a story, or rather, several stories, about your father when he was your age. Your mother knows some of them, but not all. Some are just between you and me, the way fathers and sons sometimes share things that don't need to be explained to anyone else. When I was 7, I lived in a house not unlike the one you live in now, small and stone, with a garden where my mother grew vegetables and complained about the rabbits eating her lettuce. We had chickens then, fierce little birds who ruled the yard like tiny generals and laid eggs when they felt like it, which wasn't nearly often enough to suit my mother. There was one chicken, a Rhode Island red we called Victoria because she had such imperial airs about her, who took particular exception to small boys. She would chase me around the yard, squawking and flapping, and generally carrying on as if I were some sort of invading army rather than just a boy trying to collect eggs. One morning, I decided I'd had quite enough of Victoria's nonsense. I marched into that yard wearing my father's boots, which were far too big for me, and carrying a cricket bat, which was also too big for me, determined to show that chicken who was master of the domain. The result was, well, let's just say that chickens are considerably more athletic than 7-year-old boys give them credit for, and that boots that are too big can cause a person to fall face first into a mud puddle at precisely the wrong moment. I spent the rest of the morning sitting in the kitchen while my mother picked twigs out of my hair and muttered about boys who were too clever for their own good. Victoria, meanwhile, spent the rest of the morning strutting about the yard looking insufferably pleased with herself. Your grandmother told that story at every family gathering for the next 10 years, much to my mortification. But I find I'm rather fond of it now. because it reminds me of a time when the worst thing that could happen to a boy was being outsmarted by a chicken, when the most serious injury you could sustain was wounded pride and a muddy face. I hope you have stories like that, William. I hope you're getting into the sort of harmless trouble that 7-year-old boys are supposed to get into. Tracking mud through the house, forgetting to feed the cat, climbing trees that are perhaps a bit higher than your mother would prefer. Actually, speaking of climbing trees, has the old oak by the garden gate grown much since I've been away? I remember you were just beginning to be tall enough to reach the lowest branch. That was always my favorite climbing tree when I was your age. Something about the way the branches were spaced made it perfect for a boy to scramble up and survey his kingdom from above. I used to sit in that tree for hours, reading books I'd borrowed from the vicar's library, watching the world go by below me. It was my private place, where I could think my own thoughts and dream my own dreams without anyone asking what I was doing or whether I'd finished my chores. Do you like to read, William? I hope you do. There's a whole universe waiting in books, places you can travel to without ever leaving your chair, people you can meet who will become as real to you as your own neighbors. When I was learning to read, really read, not just picking out simple words, but understanding whole sentences, whole stories, I felt like I'd been given the key to a secret kingdom. Suddenly, there were adventures everywhere, heroes and villains and distant lands where anything was possible. My mother used to worry that I read too much, that I spent too much time with my nose in a book and not enough time playing outside with the other boys. "You'll strain your eyes," she'd say, "and then where will you be?" But my father understood. He'd been a great reader himself when he was young, before work and family and the everyday business of living took up most of his time. Sometimes, when my mother wasn't looking, he'd slip me a new book, something he'd bought in town or borrowed from a friend. "Every book you read," he told me once, "makes you a little bit larger inside, and a fella can never be too large inside, William. The outside world will try to make you smaller. It's what the world does, but books will help you stay large inside, no matter what." I've thought about those words often during this war, when the world seems determined to make us all smaller, to reduce us to just the basic business of survival. I carry a book with me always. Just now, it's a volume of Dickens' Great Expectations, rather appropriate under the circumstances. Reading it reminds me that there are still stories being told, still imaginations at work, still people who believe that life can be about more than just getting through each day without being killed. It helps me remember who I was before I became just another soldier in a very long line of soldiers. I hope you'll read everything you can get your hands on, William. Read the classics, certainly, but also read adventure stories and fairy tales and books about faraway places. Read poetry, even if you don't understand all of it. Sometimes the music of words is more important than their meaning. And when you're old enough, read books about this war, about what we're doing here and why. Not because I want you to think it's glorious. There's precious little glory in mud and fear and boys dying far from home. But because I want you to understand that sometimes people have to make difficult choices, have to do hard things, because the alternative is letting something terrible happen to the people they love. I don't know how to explain war to a 7-year-old boy, William. I don't know how to make you understand why your father had to go away, why Christmas comes and goes without him, why your mother sometimes cries when she thinks you're not looking? The simple answer is that there are bad men doing bad things, and good men have to stop them. But that's too simple, really, because most of the men here, on both sides, are neither very good nor very bad. They're just ordinary fellows who found themselves in extraordinary circumstances, doing the best they can with a situation none of us really understand. What I can tell you is this: I think about you every day, every single day without fail. When I wake up in the morning, my first thought is usually something like, I wonder what William is doing right now. When I go to sleep at night, I try to imagine you in your own bed, safe and warm and dreaming of 7-year-old dreams. Sometimes I lie here in my bedroll, which is just a fancy name for a blanket on the ground, and I try to remember exactly what your voice sounds like. I can almost hear it, but not quite. It's like trying to remember a song when you can only recall the melody, but not the words. Do you still have that little gap between your front teeth? The one that made you whistle when you said words with S in them? Your mother wanted to take you to see about having it fixed, but I rather liked it. It made you sound like a very small, very earnest tea kettle when you got excited about something. I hope it's still there. I hope when I come home, I'll still be able to recognize you by the sound of your voice, by the way you move, by that particular expression you get when you're thinking hard about something important. 7 years old enough to start having real opinions about things, old enough to ask questions that don't have easy answers. I wonder what questions you're asking these days. Whether you wonder about the war, about what your father is doing, about why the world has become so complicated. If you ask your mother about me, I hope she tells you good things. I hope she tells you that I think about you all the time, that I miss you more than I can put into words, that I'm counting the days until I can come home and hear about everything you've been doing while I've been away. I hope she tells you that I'm proud of you, even though I haven't been there to see all the things you've learned and accomplished. Proud that you're growing up brave and kind, proud that you're taking care of your mother while I can't be there to do it myself. And if you ask about the war, I hope she tells you that your father is fighting for you, for the kind of world we want you to grow up in, for the right of 7-year-old boys to climb trees and read books and believe in angels moving furniture in heaven. The other men here, they talk about their children too. Sergeant Williams has 3 boys, all older than you, and he's worried that the oldest might try to enlist before the war ends. Boys that age, he says, they think it's all adventure and glory. They don't understand that war is mostly just waiting around and being cold and wet. Jenkins has a little girl, just turned 4. He shows everyone the photograph he carries, a solemn little thing with enormous eyes and ribbons in her hair. She won't remember me, he says sometimes, usually when he's had a bit too much rum ration. 4 years old when I left, and who knows how old she'll be when I get back. But I think he's wrong about that. Children remember more than we think they do, especially when they're loved. Love has a way of making memories stick, of helping important things survive even when everything else gets confused or forgotten. You were 5 when I left, William, old enough to have proper memories, old enough to remember the sound of my voice reading you stories at bedtime, the way I used to carry you on my shoulders when we walked to the village, the silly songs I'd make up when you couldn't sleep. I hope those memories are still there, tucked away safely in your mind. I hope when I come home, I'll be able to wake them up, help them become real again. I hope we'll be able to pick up where we left off, father and son, as if no time had passed at all. Though, of course, time has passed. You're 7 now, practically a young man compared to the 5-year-old I left behind. You probably learned dozens of new things, had dozens of new thoughts, grown taller and stronger and more yourself. I wonder if you still like marmalade on your toast, or if you've developed more sophisticated tastes. I wonder if you still insist on wearing your blue jumper even when it needs washing, or if you've moved on to other favorite clothes. I wonder if you still collect stones from the garden path, arranging them in mysterious patterns that only you understand. I wonder if you still talk to the cat as if she's a person, carrying on long conversations about the state of the world and the quality of her dinner. I hope you do. I hope you're still the boy who finds magic in ordinary things, who believes that stones have personalities and cats have opinions worth hearing. The world needs people like that, people who haven't forgotten how to see wonder in small things. Do you know what I miss most, William? Not the big things, Christmas dinner or Saturday market, or even your mother's cooking, though I miss all of those. What I miss most are the small, quiet moments. The way you used to lean against my knee when I was reading the newspaper, not saying anything, just being nearby. The sound of you humming to yourself when you thought no one was listening. The way you'd slip your hand into mine when we were walking, as if it belonged there. Those are the moments I think about when the shells are falling, when everything here becomes too loud and too frightening. I think about quiet mornings and small hands and the particular quality of silence that comes when people who love each other are simply being together in the same room. I think about Sunday afternoons in our sitting room, you with your picture book spread out on the floor, your mother with her mending, me with my newspaper, all of us just being a family, being home, being safe in our own small world. That's what we're fighting for, really, not for king and country, though that's what they put on the recruiting posters. We're fighting for Sunday afternoons and quiet moments, and the right of small boys to grow up in a world where the most dangerous thing they might encounter is an ill-tempered chicken. The candle is burning low now, and I can hear the others starting to settle down for the night. We've got an early start tomorrow. More marching, more of the endless business of being soldiers in a war that sometimes seems like it will never end. But it will end, William. I have to believe that. Wars don't last forever, no matter how it feels when you're in the middle of one. Someday the guns will stop, and men will put down their rifles and go home to their families, and little boys will blow out birthday candles and make wishes for ponies instead of peace. And when that day comes, I'll be on the first train home to you. I'll walk up that garden path, knock on our own front door, and when your mother opens it, I'll ask to be introduced to the young man who used to be my little boy. Because you'll be different then, won't you? Older, taller, with new stories to tell and new ideas to share. But I believe that underneath all the growing you've done, you'll still be you. Still the boy who believes in angels with furniture. Still the boy who can find magic in ordinary Tuesday afternoons. I hope you'll show me what you've learned while I've been away. I hope you'll read to me from whatever books you're reading now. Tell me about the games you've invented. Introduce me to any new friends you've made. Most of all, I hope you'll forgive me for missing so much of your growing up. I hope you'll understand that sometimes fathers have to go away for a while, not because they want to, but because love sometimes means doing difficult things to protect the people you love most. 7 years old today. Happy birthday, my dear boy. I wish I could be there to help you blow out your candles, to see your face when you open whatever presents your mother has managed to find for you. But even though I can't be there in person, I'm there in spirit. I'm there in every story I've told you, every song I've sung to you, every time I've carried you on my shoulders or tucked you into bed or simply sat nearby while you played. That's the thing about love, William. It doesn't disappear just because people have to be apart for a while. It stays with you like a warm coat on a cold day, like a favorite book you can read over and over, like a birthday wish that you carry in your heart even after the candles are blown out. I love you, my boy. I love you enough to be here, fighting for your tomorrow. I love you enough to miss you every day and still believe it's worth it. I love you enough to count the days until I can come home and discover who you've become while I've been away. Give your mother my love. Take care of her while I can't be there to do it myself. Be good, but not too good. 7-year-old boys are supposed to get into a reasonable amount of trouble. And remember me, William. Remember your father who loves you more than all the stars in the sky, who thinks about you every morning and every night, who can't wait to come home and hear you call him. The letter ends abruptly here. The remainder of the page appears to have been torn away. According to military records, Lieutenant Thomas Henry Hartley of the 3rd Battalion, Royal Sussex Regiment, was killed in action on September 19, 1917, during the 3rd Battle of Ypres, Passchendaele. He was 28 years old. William Thomas Hartley grew up to become a teacher and later headmaster of a village school in Kent. He married in 1934 and had 3 children of his own. According to family records, he kept his father's photograph on his desk throughout his teaching career and often spoke to his students about the importance of remembering those who had sacrificed for others. In 1982, when this letter was found, William Hartley was 72 years old. When contacted by church officials, he confirmed that he remembered his father clearly, despite their long separation, particularly the stories about angels moving furniture in heaven. He kept the letter for the remainder of his life and requested that it be buried with him when he died in 1995, saying it was the birthday present I waited my whole life to receive. Dear Tommy, I don't know if this letter will ever reach your hands. I don't know if the paper I write on now will escape the ash and smoke that has become our town. But I find comfort in writing to you, even if my words are lost to time. Maybe one day someone will find this letter in the wall, in a drawer, beneath the floorboards, and read it out loud. Maybe then you'll know I was thinking of you every day. It's strange, the silence that settles over a place that used to be filled with life. You remember the apple orchard behind the church? The one where you used to chase the crows with a wooden sword? It's still there, in a way. The trees are bare now, not because it's winter, but because even the apples have forgotten how to grow. I passed it yesterday on my way to the well, and I thought of your laugh. It was louder than the birds, louder than the church bell. That laugh, my boy. It could have scared the war off if only it had stayed. They've taken so much, Tommy. Not just the food and the tools and the horses, though God knows we had little to begin with, but the music, the sound of people. We used to sing when we worked. Now we whisper even when we pray. I suppose the silence is safer. I suppose it's necessary, but it feels like betrayal of who we were, of what it meant to be a village. Your grandmother, God rest her, used to hum when she cooked. Every pot of soup had a song in it. Now the house is quiet, but I still imagine the tune. Sometimes I whistle, but it feels like a sin, like I'm calling attention I cannot afford. I wonder what you look like now. You were only 9 when they sent you away with your mother. That was 3 winters ago, wasn't it? Or 4? Time doesn't move here the way it used to. It just hangs in the air, thick as the smoke from the fields. Has your voice changed? Do you still draw monsters with too many eyes? I kept one of your drawings, the one of the dragon sleeping in the barn. It's tucked in the back of the book she gave me, your mother. The red one with the cracked spine. I pretend it's a bookmark, but really it's a piece of you. I want you to know more than anything that I stayed. I stayed because someone had to remember. I could not leave the orchard, the church, the worn steps where you used to sit. I could not leave the graves, her grave, untended. Every week I go. I bring whatever I have, wildflowers once, a broken comb once, a handful of sugar I had saved for tea. I speak to her, tell her of the days. I tell her of you. Yesterday, a boy about your age was taken. No one said where, only that his father begged. We don't ask questions anymore, Tommy. Questions come with consequences. But that night, I dreamt of you, standing in the snow, holding a candle. You didn't speak, just stood there, brave and small. I woke up crying and ashamed for not doing more, for not finding you a world that deserved your laughter. Do you remember the story of the fox with the white tail? You used to beg for it at bedtime. I told it so many times, I began to believe I had met that fox myself. I saw something white in the woods 2 days ago. It was just snow caught in a tree, but for a moment I let myself believe. Maybe hope is a kind of madness, but it keeps me human. They rationed bread last month. Now they ration light. We black out the windows, not just for the planes, but for the fear. People are shadows here, Tommy. We move like we're already ghosts. And yet, every morning, I open the curtain just a little, enough to see the sun rise over the eastern hill. That hill is yours, you know. You climbed it once with your mother, swore you could see the sea from the top. I didn't have the heart to tell you it was just fog. You believed in oceans, so I believed in you. If this war ends and you find me gone, I ask only this. Plant something. An apple tree maybe, or a row of tomatoes. Something with roots. Let it grow crooked and wild. Let the birds nest in it. Let the wind tear it if it must, but let it stand. That way, I'll have stayed, not just as a name in your memory, but as something living. Do you forgive me, Tommy, for not coming with you? For not being more than I am? I was just a man with worn hands and a soft heart. I tried to be enough. I tried to be brave the way you were, boarding that train with your chin held high. Your mother was the strongest person I ever knew. She held you like you were made of glass and fire all at once. If she still sings, tell her I hear it, even now, in the hush between bombs, in the rustle of the orchard leaves, in the stillness of the night when I dare to dream. I'll keep writing, even if I never post them. The act of writing is the only rebellion I have left. And maybe, just maybe, these words will outlive me. Be kind. Be curious. Don't let the world make you cruel. That's how we win, even if we don't. Yours always, Grandfather.